Well, I was 8 years old, and my mother signed me up to play the flute in band, and that carried all through high school. And then I switched to percussion, and then eventually, like, picked up other instruments like the guitar and bass in high school.
Same case for me. I first signed up to play trumpet, and that didn't really go over too well. I thought that it would be easier to play because it just had 3 buttons, but apparently it's even harder. So I started playing the saxophone because it had a lot of buttons, and my best friend was the only other sax player in 4th grade, so I switched to that, and then I played that all the way through high school. And then also, just like Sarah, I started playing percussion, playing drums for a couple of little garage bands with friends and stuff like that, and then picked up the guitar and started singing about 7 years ago, basically with Sarah. Like, it's the only major project I've ever been a part of, like, singing that wise. And that's about it.
Somewhere around 10 or 12 years ago, we met at a dive bar in D.C. called the Grog and Tankard, and I was in a band called Debauchery, and he was in a band called Skin Deep, and he was playing heavy metal, I was playing hard rock, and so that's how we met, was our bands were billed on the same night at the same crappy bar. Then, we sort of kept loosely in touch, and then eventually our bands broke up, and Blaine, I guess, he was starting to sing and, like, do, other kind of music, more like kind of pop rock, with his guitar player from Skin Deep. And they needed a bass player, so I came in, but I wasn't playing bass anymore. I traded in all my bass gear and started singing just like Blaine. So the bass thing didn't work out, but I think I might have, like, tried a couple of vocal harmonies and stuff on one of their songs. So he came out with me, and we started frequenting this open mic where we became friends with this girl who she lived in Maryland at the time, but she's from Texas and was moving back to Texas. So she asked if we would learn a couple songs together for her going away party, which was at that open mic. And so we learned a couple songs, and then we loved, the chemistry and everything that was going on, and decided to, like, make it a thing. So actually at first we just went by Blaine and Sarah, but then eventually we decided to, have a band name. And so I guess, I don't know, Blaine and Sarah started in 2009, I think, was it, Blaine?
I think so.
And then we started calling ourselves Pretty Gritty, 2010 or 11 or so. Well, Blaine is really pretty, and wherever we go, people just faint. So,
It's a gift. It's a gift.
And I'm kind of mean and angry and a little rough around the edges, so that's kind of how we came up with the name. Actually, no, that's a joke. We were interviewed. That could be our official answer if you want, but
no.
truthfully, we were interviewed by so we frequented a lot of the venues in Frederick, Maryland. We played a lot of festivals and different events, and there's a few bars that we played at every monthly. And so there was this Frederick periodical, and I feel really bad because now I can't remember the name of it, but they were doing an interview.
Was it the Frederick Post?
It might have been in the Frederick News Post. Yeah, you're right, Frederick News Post. Yeah, they were asking basically to describe our sound or something, and we vocally, Blaine has the more gravelly sort of roaring voice, and I have like the softer, delicate kind of voice. So I said that I had the pretty and he had the gritty, basically. And then so from that, we decided to just call ourselves Pretty Gritty.
Okay, so I guess whenever we play a show, I am playing guitar. I have a tenor ukulele that Sarah has coined it my mountain lele because I play it like a mandolin. I just don't have a mandolin. So there's that. I play a bunch of foot percussion, like tambourines and stuff like that. And then we also have somewhat of a cocktail drum set that I've put together that we've come together with like over the years. So it's a mixture of like a djembe, a floor tom, a porch board, which is kind of like a kick drum, and then we have like hi-hat and some cymbals and stuff like that. And I'll play some kazoo and spoons and whistle and anything I can do that makes me that much washboard, whatever makes me weird, whatever makes me, quirky.
So I also play the acoustic guitar, and I play the tenor banjo. Like he said, we have this little cocktail drum set that we both will take turns on. But if we're both kind of standing up and not using the drum set, like I'll use the porch board, the thing that's kind of like a kick drum, and then Blaine will do the tambourine. So basically, like, I'm all the downbeats and he's all the upbeats, if you know what I'm saying. And then we both sing, we sing lead, we sing in harmony, mostly in harmony together. But there are some songs where he'll take the lead on, or some songs where I take the lead on. So it's very much like a duo. We just love any sort of setting where it's like a listening room environment. So if there's 500 people that are all quiet and all there specifically to watch the live music, I mean, that is absolutely the ideal setting, because we've played in bars with, maybe 150 people or something, or, sometimes less, whatever. But if it's 150 people who are not paying attention and you're kind of competing with crowd noise, it's not the ideal situation. So we're just sort of yelling our whole way through and trying to keep everything upbeat and just trying to get through the night. And then there are times where we play for 25 people in a living room, and that's just magical, because everybody is there to see the music and they're quiet, and we can get really intimate and play sad, quiet songs, or, get really touching instead of having to, blast through the whole night. Yeah, so that's my answer. I don't know, Blaine?
Yeah, I'd say the same. I mean, as far as you could say, like, I would not ignore the invitation to play Madison Square Garden. We could do that, and that would be amazing. But if you have that many people in there, the odds of everybody kind of being low-key or attentive probably slim to none. But a huge venue that is, like Sarah said, like attentive and like just really, really awesome. Just being in front of a big crowd. I mean, I'd say like people don't play out live if they don't want to entertain. They would just stay at home or make albums and sell albums on the internet. But if you want to go out and play live shows, you want to entertain and you like spotlights. So it's like we love to entertain big crowds. And then Sarah was mentioning like living room concerts and stuff like that. I mean, you're playing in front of 25 people or less, or maybe a little bit more, and everything is unplugged except for your vocals, and you can hear everything crystal clear. I mean, that's a beautiful thing in itself. I do occasionally like the roaring, like smoky bar room if everybody is like into it, and if we're able to be as loud as we can be, and everybody's just like stomping their boots or whatever and like going to town, then that's a cool bar environment for me. Every now and then we've done that a lot, and we've had not so great moments, and we've had some really fun times doing bar scenes like that. But we're definitely trying to work our way up to strictly just the bigger venues and the more nice, intimate listening room settings, whether it's a living room or a concert hall.
We were able to open for Lake Street Dive before they were filling gigantic rooms, and just they're like the nicest people. They're quirky, they're kind of nerdy, but they're funny, and they're super cool. So, off the top of my head, that was really cool, because Lake Street Dive, I mean, they're amazing. They're absolutely amazing, but it was nice to, listen to them practice their harmonies at the bar, before the show started, and to just talk to them a little bit and just see how down to earth they are. They're really fun people.
I have a huge crush on the entire band. I love every single. I would marry the whole band if I could. If I could marry Lake Street Dive like today, I would do that. I'll cook and clean and stay at home or whatever. But no, I have one funny story. We had the awesome privilege and yet a kind of hilarious combination of opening up for Larry the Cable Guy, the comedian. And that was pretty wild, because that was like our first time together on a big stage. I don't think we'd ever been on a stage that big individually before we started playing together, or since then, really. I mean, it was a huge venue, huge stage. So, it was on a fairground, and so behind the backstage, there were huge facilities, like bathroom facilities, but it was closed off to just performers and stagehands, people working the event. So I had this special pass, and I brought a couple of friends backstage. We're like, we're gonna go backstage. And I was like, well, I gotta use the bathroom real quick. And I go to use the bathroom, and there's this big, huge guy blocking the door. And I'm just like, I can't go in there. And I said, I bet you Larry the Cable Guy's in there. And I was like, but there's 15 urinals in there. Like, really? They can't go in there? And then Larry the Cable Guy comes right out the door, all in character, shakes my hand. His hand was still wet from washing his hand. It was just a pretty shocking moment. I got to be face-to-face, shake his hand. Then he got in a golf cart and drove over to the stage and started entertaining people, which was another crazy thing, was watching one person on a stage with one microphone, not playing music, and having the attention of a few thousand people, where everybody was just listening to everything he was saying. That's powerful when you see that. It's pretty amazing.
It was very exciting. We enter a lot of we're on Reverb Nation and Sonic Bids and stuff, and so we're constantly submitting our stuff and then forgetting that we submitted. You just submit to what you can or what you can afford, because a lot of these things have a submission costs and stuff. But you just do it and then forget about it until or unless somebody contacts you. So this was one of the cool things. The Indie Music Channel was fairly new, and I read about it through Reverb Nation, and so you had to submit to even get on the channel. And then I posted some songs, and ended up submitting to the contest, and I was really shocked. I was working at the time, and in the middle of the day I get this weird Los Angeles phone number. I'm like, what the heck is that, a bill collector or whatever? So I just let it go, and then on my lunch break I checked my message, and I found out that we were nominated on all 3 songs that we submitted, and I was like, wow. So I guess nobody found out. It's just it's like a mini, felt like a mini Grammys or something. They put together this really cool party, and nobody knew if they won ahead of time. We all went to LA. We're really excited and waiting for the announcement to see who won in each category, and we were just shocked and super stoked that we ended up winning in all 3 categories. I don't know, Blaine, you want to add anything?
It was a cool time. It was definitely you never think it's really difficult to do an acceptance speech, which even at this level, you're this is cool. But they had it they were streaming it live, I believe, on the internet, right, Sarah?
Yeah. Yes, they were.
So it's you go over there, and I swear it's you just fall all over your words. It's stage trophies, thank you. Mom, Dad, bye. You're just what did I
I'm
just
pretty
say,
sure.
and how fast was that?
And I think you offered on the host's behalf to buy everybody in that room a round of drinks.
Yeah, I have a tendency to obligate other people to buy other people things. I personally won't be able to do that. It didn't. You think that they would do that.
It shouldn't have, I guess, but.
Yeah.
But so they streamed it, and the stream was totally worked. No problems, and so our friends back home in Maryland were able to watch the whole thing, which was really cool. They had like the red carpet and all that stuff going on. It was a pretty sweet experience. We kind of felt special. Our fans are also our friends. There are people, who we grew up with that have become fans of our music, and they're amazing. They're like family. And then there are a lot of folks that we've met through the scene who became fans, and then, we just feel really close to most of, I don't know, there's no wall between us and our fans. I feel like they're more like friends than they are fans. You know what I mean? I don't know, Blaine.
Yeah, I was going to say that we have about 3,000 some odd cousins. It's like a big, huge family. It's really more of a family. I mean,
it really does.
We get personal emails from people, Facebook messages, text messages, phone calls, and we hang out with people who we met originally in a show situation or a performance. And then, next thing you know, we just see them more and more and more, and you get to know them a little bit better. And then, especially if you're living in that town. So like back home, definitely a lot of them are family members and close friends. And then if they weren't, they are now,
It happens to be a lyric in a song that I wrote and a song that Blaine wrote, and we didn't realize it at the time. But so Blaine came up with a couple of names. I think one might have been like Franklin Sessions, because it was actually
it was done in Franklin.
And then, but Lonely Road was a lyric that he noticed in one of our original tunes, and thought that it sounded cool. And and the whole mood, pretty much, overall of the EP is kind of, dark, dark and lonely.
Dark and sad.
I mean, not all the way through though. It's just pretty emotional. I don't know. It sounded. I don't know. In my head, it sounded right and it rang. And then I realized, like, actually, Blaine, in one of your songs, like the opening line has Lonely Road in it. He's like, oh man, well that's a surefire sign. We need to name it Lonely Road. This is our first recording project with Creative and Dreams, with Fred and Paul. We did like a Christmas single. So here, why don't I just rewind for a while, like a few years back. This guy, Fred Cannon, who scours the internet at all hours of every day looking for, talent, I guess, and whatever strikes him in whatever way, if he finds something that strikes him, he goes after that. So he ended up contacting me because either my email or phone number or something was what was on Reverb Nation, and he watched a couple videos on Reverb Nation. So he wanted to work with us, but we were actually in the middle of our Kickstarter project and wanted to continue with that. So fast forward a little while, we keep in touch with him. He's really good about keeping in touch with us. We ended up we were hanging out in Nashville, and we knew that he had relocated to Nashville. And so we hit him up, and we're like, we're in town. Do you want to do breakfast or lunch or something while we're here? And he's like, yeah, sure. Let's do that. So we go and we meet with him and have breakfast. And he actually brought Paul. We ended up meeting Paul, his producer / engineer, at this breakfast meeting. And Fred, of course, we were supposed to eat breakfast and then leave and go back to Maryland. Mind you, it's like, 12-hour drive. So, and we drove. So we were like, getting full and then deciding to like go back home, whatever, to spend the day driving. so Fred is like, do you have to get back today? And we're like, I don't know, why? And he's like, well, I have a proposition. Why don't we do a Christmas song? Why don't we record one right now? And we're like, kind of looking at each other like, he's like, that way there's no, there's no like legal stuff you have to worry about. Just like, we'll do a Christmas song. It's nothing that you guys wrote. You don't have to get pulled into, contracts or anything. Let's just see how we gel together. Let's see if we have chemistry, and let's see how we work together. And of course, Blaine and I are like, okay, obviously we're not going to pass this opportunity up. And so we ended up recording this version of Silent Night that Blaine and I had. We did like a at-home, home video of it, and then for Christmas, I don't know, a few years ago, just posted it for our friends and fans to watch. And he really loved our version, so we ended up doing that in the studio, and it came out really beautifully, and we were able to release it. I guess it was March when we recorded it with them.
Yeah.
And then by that Christmas, it was on Spotify. And the production was beautiful, and we had a great experience, working with Paul and Fred. So based off of that experience, we decided, like, you know what, let's just go ahead and do like a whole project with them, because they're really cool. So now fast forward, and the last March, we went out. We stayed with Fred in his amazing house, and he and Rose are like the sweetest people ever. And so we stayed with them, and we recorded at the studio in Franklin, and it was the same experience. We only had 2.5 days to track everything, to track, what Blaine and I were, our instruments and our vocals and stuff. And it went really smooth. I mean, we both felt comfortable immediately. It was very low stress for the crunch time. For 2.5 days, you'd think that people would be a little bit high-strung and stressed out, and it was none of that. It was like, for me at least, it was just a really cool, chill experience, and I kind of felt like comfortable, like at home,
I started actually writing that tune a few years ago. I have a tendency, my whole brain is like one giant wall of Post-it notes, and they're just like everywhere. So it's like little bits and pieces of songs, and then sometimes I either get turned off by them, or I get scared of them, or I don't feel like I'm going to do really well. So I can them for a little while, and then if they just come right back to me for some reason. Basically, like Fred was saying, have material when you come out here. So we were like, okay, well, we need 3 originals, and we're going to do we just said we're going to do a handful of originals and a handful of covers. We'll do the math later, like how many of each. And I just was not having anything. And then a week before we went out there, or maybe 2 weeks before we went out there, I just grabbed that song and I said, let me finish this one. And I originally started writing it a couple of years ago, just vamping on that riff. And then, the inspiration is playing with Sarah. That's what that song really is about for me. It's like when you listen to it, it's a love song, and it's all these things, but it's deeper than that. It's just more like, we were both kind of out there trying to figure things out, whether it's like spiritually or musically or just life in general. And then we came together. Everything just kind of happened for a reason. I feel like there's a lot of destiny in there. Since day one, you could say even since we were kids, we were probably supposed to play together now. And there's been a lot of things that have led up to that. So writing that song was kind of me putting that into a song, like how I felt about the whole situation. And I feel like, Sarah and I are not together, but I get some of the best parts of her and she gets some of the best parts of me. You know what I mean? Like in this relationship, this is like a musical marriage that we have. So sometimes I have to sleep on the musical couch, or, Sarah will do the musical dishes, things like that. But that's the gist of that tune, I'd say.
Well, it's a literal story about somebody that I met back home, knowing that I was going to move here. It's just that story, basically, of meeting this particular individual. And he just was very persistent and in just saying, hey, let's just hang out and, just basically, I mean, it's about a specific story, but it also, I feel like people can relate. Like you meet someone, especially if you're in a transitional period in your life and you're like not going to be, you're not going to be in this one place for a while. If you meet someone, there's a spark, but you don't want to start anything up because what's the point is what you're thinking. But that song is kind of a reminder that who cares if it's not going to turn into anything. What is wrong with hanging out with people and having fun and experiencing what these people are all about, and not getting so caught up in the future and just like living in the here and now, you know what I mean? So that's kind of what that was about. Basically, everybody has, skeletons in their closet, and people walk around, I wouldn't say everyone, but most people walk around with secrets and stuff like that. And so it's just, that basically I just had this idea. I was actually driving to a studio session a while ago, back when we lived in Maryland. I was driving to Fredericksburg, and I was actually listening to remember that song Bones, Blaine? There's like
Little Big Town?
Little Big Town, yes. I was listening to that.
Yeah, that's a great
and
song.
I was like, yeah, that is a very, human concept. Everyone walks around with a little bit of guilt or whatever, secrets and all that, and I just kind of started like sort of not dwelling, but just brainstorming on that. It like kind of gave me some inspiration, and then I started humming the chorus. But then, as Blaine said, he's got a brain full of Post-it notes. I just never did anything with it for a long time. And then, later on, a year or two later, it just like hit me. That chorus came back to me, and the verses and everything just came out a lot easier. It was kind of effortless. Sometimes I have to sit down and rewrite and get really frustrated for a long time. But this one just sort of came out. I don't know. But yeah, it's just that sort of concept just hit me when I was listening to Little Big Town, and that's kind of how it started. It feels really great to be a part of a network that actually cares. We've never actually worked, like with an actual like label or like, professionals in like the music, but we've worked with producers and engineers and tried to make something happen, but it's just really hard to do. It's been really hard to do on our own. Like we don't even know where to start on a lot of this. It's kind of everybody's sort of experimenting and reaching out and trying to like, figure out what to do. But here I feel like, Rose and Fred really know what they're doing. I mean, they've been in the business for a long time. They have like, they're pros. They have amazing, an amazing story and history. And they are really fighting the fight for songwriters, which not a lot of people are doing anymore. And so it feels really good to know that, they know what they're doing and they're doing it and they're putting their all into it, for us and for, everyone else in their network. But what really hits me hard is that they just feel like, they feel like surrogate parents almost. Like when we were out there, they really make us feel like family. And that's really important to me. Because Blaine and I were just having a conversation yesterday about how in previous generations, even before us, like your word was your contract. It was, everything was, like based on trust and a handshake and your word and everything. And, you can't be like that anymore. It's not like that. But I really, truly feel like Rose and Fred are the closest thing to that. They have to put legal things in place, I'm sure, to protect their business and everything, but it doesn't feel like that. Right. It feels like this relationship that we have with them, as human beings, not we're the client and they're like this distant, weird, entity that is doing things, but we don't really know what's going on. You know what I mean? There's like a closeness.
Yeah, I mean, I just, like what Sarah was saying, I feel like they kind of keep it like mom and pop, like a mom and pop shop. It's a lot more intimate, and it's like we don't have to worry about, like if we have a problem, there's only like 2 phone numbers we can call to get a hold of direct contact with people who are at the top. We don't have to worry about dealing with like, oh, this person's going to patch you in. It's like calling Comcast or something. Like you don't have to do that. And it's you also don't have the big fear of, okay, well, we're going to sign our life away for like a big, I mean, because, Sarah and I are not completely spring chickens anymore. We can't be Britney Spears at this point. We're not 19 or 20. So giving up some time on a contract really makes a big difference now because, if you dedicate, okay, well, I've got to sign, say, like 5 years or 10 years to this person, but then they're just going to shelve us, that's the good thing, too. It's like we're not worried about, well, let's go in here and do this record and then not be able to do anything else with anyone else while they put it on a shelf and let it collect dust because it's not doing as much as they hoped right away, And it's kind of cool. It's like, it keeps it like the whole keeping it local kind of thing. Like you feel like you're contributing and they're helping us out immensely, and we hope to be able to help them out by what we all produce together and put out there.
Right. It'd be on Facebook, facebook.com/prettygritty, reverbnation.com/prettygritty. You can also go to our website, which is prettygrittymusic.com, and we are on Twitter. I have to admit, I'm not really like, I don't keep up with that as much as I do with the Reverb Nation and the Facebook, but we are on there. It's at PG_prettygritty.
Thank you for having us.
Well,
we really appreciate it.
Yeah.